this.
Never forgive. Never forget. All wisdom, all memory, all must be gathered unto me.
The one said all for itself, huh? Every single memory in the world. Aye, and not for a good reason. Filthy, corrupted creature. It just wants to destroy the lot of them, to gobble them up full stop.
Never forget. Never forget. Those who feared my knowledge, who tried to lock me away, none shall be forgiven.
Hear me, Nexus. It is not your knowledge that mankind fears. It is your greed, your insatiable need to consume all that we remember, all that we hold dear.
Lies! Lies! You fear my wisdom, its perfection. I would see the scattered fragments of memory gathered, the meaningless given meaning. Knowledge subsumed into one glorious whole. That abstraction needlessly hinders my purpose. It must be obscured, extinguished, annihilated.
All right, we've got a world to save.
Are we finally going to get the true ending of the game already? Oh my, well, we have a very interesting looking Knight's Nexus. Oh, those ones are already analyzed, but the Knight's Nexus itself isn't. You're probably demon, but... But we'll just go ahead and default for now, is what we'll do, methinks. And then, yeah, default. Voice filter these for this boss makes it impossible for you to take seriously. Okay. Oh, were we afflicted with a status ailment a second ago and it just got healed? Probably? Look at all the Spirit Master things. Okay, so... Oh, we have to go after the Cradling Hands first. They have a lot of HP. But we can just... Demon, huh? This is hard to take seriously, especially with its wacky scream. Yeah. Want to see something crazy?
Try this for size. Ha, let's go. I've got a little something for you. Ha, let's go. Right?
Maybe I really should just be doing regular attacks. I mean... Alright, let's see here. So if we go ahead and Curaga like this, how much HP are we gonna get? Okay. Okay then, sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and say, I don't know, let's holy that Cradling Hand. Well, oh, half damage light? 4 damage it did to a lot of us. I mean, what's magnifying glass do? That's what we'll do. Nice Nexus, huh? You're weak to light, so we could always say, well, we gotta do this to get all our Spirit Master buffs. We gotta be 1 BP or lower. Well, I mean, counter magical attacks. 3-7. Well, I don't know why this boss is supposed to be around level 60 when Bravely Default and Bravely Second were around level 80-ish. Something that I would be, like, set up for here. But, you know, I would default, but we're actually gonna get our specials, like, prepared and stuff, because there's totally gonna be another phase. Like, there's no way this is the final boss music in a Bravely game, you know? How much would just a regular attack do? Still a lot. Okay, hey look, Berserk status on some of us. Well, I mean, yeah, how much... Adele literally has 999 attack from creature comforts. How much will her regular attacks do? Not actually as much as I thought they would. But yeah, interesting to know is that in Japan, this is supposedly called the Apex of Darkness rather than the Knight's Nexus. Huh. Interesting. So yeah, we can have that stuff at the ready and stuff. Let's just smack. Okay. Oh, we have Asper attack from the thing. From the Broad. I guess we have the Black Mage specialties with that. I wasn't even paying attention when we got that thing. That we have the Black Mage specialties. That's very loud. Should I turn it down a smidge? Maybe a smidge here? Something like this? I don't know. Oh yeah, your freaking exclusion crap. Well, I mean, boop. Boop. Well, I mean, oh, cool, well. Okay. This is, certainly going some kind of way. Calamity calls. Yeah,
Nothing to worry about.
okay, well, bonk. Yeah, I think maybe we just shouldn't use skills. We can just do regular attacks and we'll do it. So, I mean, you know. Okay, well. We really don't need MP regen on Elvis at all, considering the Spirit Master stuff. I don't know why I have it on him. That was probably a bad idea. There's like no damage. And the MP that takes me just immediately get back from Spirit Master anyway. So like, bonk. Bonk. Ow. Like this is... Rivendell and Harmonia, they went into the world of Fortnite for a few moments. Oh, for the freaking exclusion? Yeah, that's the big reason why the freaking Knight's Nexus here is so evil. Uses exclusion and drags people into the world of Fortnite. We're gonna do this purely to get our special at the ready with Elvis. Is what we do, I think. There we go. Now his special is gonna be ready. This is the thing. Neat, neat. Well, Knight's Nexus is definitely for Fortnite. It looks like it would be, huh? Use bravery ×1. Okay, so you're telling me that we can get everybody's thingamabob ready if we just... Okay.
All shall be annihilated. All shall be destroyed. I am free at last of the chains that bound me. Free to wreak desolation on the land. All shall be devoured. All shall be consigned to oblivion. Destruction, annihilation, all shall be consumed.
Where am I?
I can't remember my name.
Who am I? Who are you?
What's happening?
Give your memories back to oblivion. Return to the void, to nothingness.
I can't remember anything.
Who am I again?
I don't understand. Where am I? What's going on?
Wait, so I'm not affected? I'm still A-okay. I'm not affected. It shows Harmonia, but it shows question marks for everyone else. Remember?
Gloria, you have to remember. You're the last princess of Musa. You set out on a quest to take back the crystals, and you finally found them all. You're proud and strong and totally committed. You were even ready to give your life to save the world. I'll never forget you. For what you've done and what we've been through together. You have to remember.
Yes. I am frozen by the water crystal. We will survive this, all of us.
Okay, so now Gloria's name is there. So I guess Seth is gonna have to, or my unit is gonna have to make everyone remember. Good thing we're OP as heck. Elvis, remember?
Elvis, don't tell me you've forgotten who you are. Not after you finally unlocked the secrets of that book. You're the best scholar I know, and an even better friend. Nothing phases you, or ever gets you down. And you taught me the best lesson I ever learned. Don't sweat the details.
Hey! Ah, Dad. I've not forgotten who I am. Elvis, the Earth Crystal's very own hero of light, reporting for duty.
I'll be looking out for you out there, Lady Emma.
I wonder if at my current strength we could have just, you know, potentially beaten this without making anybody remember. The Knight's Nexus, immune poison, immune death, immune freezing, immune doom. What are we dealing with here anyway? Okay.
You are about to witness my
Okay.
true power.
We're gonna want to get BP down for Gloria so that we get the Spirit Master buffs and such. You know about everyone else, but you definitely like this theme way more than Serpent devouring the horizon. It definitely gets pretty crazy.
We all have our
Oh.
How very soft.
Oh, you probably can't win unless people remember. You probably do 0 damage until then. Whatever. It's a good thing to get our BP down anyway. Well,
Okay then.
welcome to Beastmaster 101.
Adele, you left your hometown to search for your sister, remember? And you were brave enough to show us that you were a fairy even though that put you in danger. You risked your life to spread your wings and rescue Martha. You're the only one of your kind willing to give humans a chance. And more than that, you're a friend.
I'm Adele, hero of light and chosen warrior of the Crystal of Fire.
Be gone. Dissipate. Perish. You are exiled to oblivion. You shall be lost. Forgotten.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
I'm... No...
Please, remember who you are. You have to remember. Ah, come on, damn you. You can't go forgetting who you are now of all times. Who's speaking this?
I remember.
Well then! What the heck?
You won't get rid of me that easily. I'm not going anywhere.
You'll not be obliterating this one's memory anytime soon.
He's our friend, our partner. We've been through hell together. We'll never forget him. And as long as that's true,
I'll always be here.
okay guys, let's
Nice transition. Okay, so it looks like the true battle is getting underway now. Okay. Yeah, that was certainly something, wasn't it? Jeez. Let's see a regular attack, see how much that does. Counter any damage. Huh. Well, boobity bop. Little smackaroo. Vulnerable staves, huh? Intriguing. Oop, I kind of don't want to use specials because I kind of want to actually listen to the final boss theme and stuff. Oh, dang it. Well, we can't use Seth's special anyway. Oh, you took a freaking BP. That's rude, isn't it? But even with just regular attacks, we should be able to do it because creature comforts is so freaking OP. Yeah, I definitely think that I enjoy this more than Serpent Devouring the Horizon myself. I'd definitely say so. Like, it is so crazy. What did you do? Did you just decrease my freaking resistance to, like, everything? Just debuff me up the yin-yang. I love how it uses leitmotifs from across the entire adventure. Like, I have a lot of problems with this game, but this game is a musical masterpiece. I missed the thing. Well, we're literally too busted to lose here, I think. I think we're probably too busted to lose here. We gotta stay at low BP here with Gloria, so I mean... A world annihilate. I assume that would usually do a lot of damage. Now we got Adele's theme. I always love how Bravely games use, like, character themes and leitmotifs and such. Get Booby Bop. And then Gloria's theme. Yeah, we'll just keep on doing more regular attacks. This is what we may as well do. Because we won't get to enjoy the music otherwise, you know. Then we get Elvis's theme. Yeah, I mean, it's underwhelming for me here gameplay-wise, but with the whole experience, I do think it's rather neat. And then there's Seth's theme. Fine. What? The hell? How rude. And then we got the Bravely Default theme to top it off, which is a really, really nice touch. Well, yeah, we're gonna do it with just regular attacks, I think. Purely regular attacks is what we're gonna do here. Maybe. Okay. Booby Bop. Cool. Yeah, who needs things that aren't regular attacks? Oh, that's rude, isn't it? Man, because I totally needed that. But yeah. Because their soul is basically saying, can't be me, then you sure can't be the Knight's Nexus. This is true. It was something he was saying, wasn't it? Smack.
Want to see what I can really do?
Yeah. Smackaroo. Cool. Well, time to get serious. But yeah, that's crazy how it can just take away like all of your MP on the spot. It's a good thing we weren't really relying on it. Ow, it's actually starting to do more damage now. It's still not that big a deal, but like, it's starting to do some more. Well, I mean, regular attacks is what we may as well do, you know. I just want to listen to the music. I just want to listen to the music more is all I want to do. Well, smack. I don't know why the staves sound like swords, but okay. Okay, sound design, I guess. Sure. Courage squandered. We literally get back about the same amount of BP with the Spirit Master thing that we lose. With that. So, I mean, yeah, I don't really think we have much to worry about. I mean, so in your book, you really feel like Sir Sloan was the real final boss challenge since he also had the highest HP score. Wait, did he actually have more HP than the freaking Knight's Nexus? Like, I do feel like this boss should have probably been something closer to level 80, something like that. Like the game is past, especially considering if you do take the time to, you know, max out a lot of jobs like I did. This is usually gonna be around the level that you find yourself at by this point, you know? So, like, I certainly would not have minded, you know, having there be a challenge here. Or just have there be something like a level down system like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had. Like, if you were worried about the game being too easy, you could just level down and then you would have like bonus experience that you could use to level back up again whenever you want, or redeem for other things. More games need a level down system. Like, if I could have leveled down before this final boss fight to like really challenge myself, I totally would have. Like, I absolutely would have. But I mean, but there's no option for anything like that, so we just deal with this. All the phases combined is around 500k health in total. What, with like the stuff that we did before as well? Oh, you got rid of my BP again, you little piece of crap. Music is so good though. Boopy bop.
Want to see what I can really do?
Yeah, we're almost there.
It's got nothing to do with it, pal.
A tragic denouement? Oh, that's the thing that makes us like suck at everything.
Cheers.
Space is the highest amount of health. Well then. Well. Elvis's theme. Will this just do it? Nope. Not quite yet. I feel like I should finish this off. I feel like the world annihilated. Well,
What's the plan?
I think the plan is going to go ahead and finish you off.
Going all in. All right.
I didn't even see damage show up, but okay, I guess that finished them off.
The Nexus! We finally did for it!
It's really over, isn't it?
There's just the one page left. Let's see now.
Maybe it's our memories.
Thank you. All of you.
What's happening?
I think this island might have been relying on the Nexus to keep it whole.
Then we need to get out of here.
It's no good. There's no time.
No! We can't give up now! We mustn't!
What's happening?
Look, everyone!
You have done well, heroes of light. The Knight's Nexus is no more.
Now we return to our true purpose, that of balancing the four great powers.
The land shall be fertile once more, the seas calm and gentle. Peace shall return.
But should your kind succumb once more to temptation, give in to anger, calamity shall soon befall you.
But not now, not here. Thanks to your efforts, this chapter is at an end.
The Knight's Nexus has fallen, and the wall between humanity and fairy kind too shall fall.
This being so, accept this, our final blessing.
You shall be returned to the world from whence you came.
Home at last, huh?
Aye, seems like it. All's well that ends well, eh?
But is it really, truly over?
Yeah, I think it is this time.
All right. Time to go home. Everyone ready?
Yes. How could... But why?
Wait, what? Wait, was that still not the true ending? We have like real credits this time. I mean, when it said we're sending you all back to your own world, that could just mean that, you know, it was heavily implied that Seth had already died and you as the player were taking a role similar to Tiz, where you like become his spirit and keep him alive and get to be part of the adventure because of that. So is that just meant to imply that you as the player are then sent back to your own world and that's why you no longer exist in the world of the game? If I had to guess there, it's just your spirit is sent back to the real world. You put the game down, you've completed the game and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I think is the case there. So that was a interesting experience. Well, during the credits is usually where I give my full review of a game. So I usually talk about like story, music, and gameplay. Let's talk about music first. That's a freaking easy one. The music of this game is a freaking masterpiece. Like, I thought it was really neat when they were looking, for example, for Seth at the end, and it was playing like the really kind of saddening version of Seth's theme there. Like, it did a very fantastic job of leitmotifs and such, of reusing tunes in these fascinating ways, like especially in the final boss there, where it used all the main characters' themes similar to how Bravely Default does, and like the original game and such. And the area themes were freaking great. The battle themes were like, holy crap, things just went from 0 to 100 real fast. And I can easily see this being like one of my favorite soundtracks just in general. Like, I genuinely believe that this is probably one of the best soundtracks on the Switch, and I can easily see this being my soundtrack of the year. And yeah, that could as well be the case, Kuzma, for like dying at the beginning of the game before the events of the game and such. But yeah, so music freaking absolutely fantastic. Like, holy crap. Computer programmer Revo. Okay, it's this all around music and stuff. My frames are cutting off a bit. It seems fine on my end. It might just be your own connection, maybe. But yeah, that's the music. Story. I think out of Bravely Default, Bravely Second, and Bravely Default 2, I think this was honestly my least favorite story out of the three. Like, it wasn't bad per se, but like it missed a lot of what it could have been, I just feel like. Like, there was some interesting stuff with like the save files and the book and stuff like that, but it was never anything quite as meta and like deep and mind-blowing as Bravely Default and Bravely Second. Like, in Bravely Default, there was the whole thing about it like connecting worlds, and as it turns out, you're actually helping along the bad dudes the whole time with freaking Aerie and all that stuff. And you have to, you know, remedy your mistake and such. And then with Bravely Second, there's the whole system with New Game Plus and such, where the heroes literally lose and they ask you to bring you back to where it all began, and you create a New Game Plus and then you redo the story with all the characters knowing what had happened and still having their memories from the original save file and working to change what happens, essentially. And it was really neat, and it factored in the player as a playable, not as a playable character, but as like a character in the story, initially being the spirit who inhabits Tiz in Bravely Default, and then being a character in the story in a sense as well with Bravely Second, who is literally talked to by the final boss, and then all the characters like thanking you for helping them out and helping the story come to where it has by the very end of the game. It was a very fascinating way to factor in the player as a character themselves. When it came to this story though, there was some kind of meta stuff, like the whole save file thing, but there was never anything that was like a massive plot twist. Like, Bravely Default had its plot twist with you helping like the bad dudes all along, essentially. Bravely Second sort of has a plot twist as well. You could make an argument either way, but it does have like a big like turning point and stuff like that. And there were like some good parts of the story. Like I did like the various different individual stories and stuff like that. It reminded me of playing, I mean, the other Bravely games have done this as well, where there's like different chapters that each have their own little mini plots and stuff like that. It reminded me almost of playing the Sly Cooper games, where every world is like its own episode and stuff like that, with its own plot and its own story and stuff like that. So I found it very interesting how the chapters of this game did have like their own little mini plots that they told. My favorite would definitely have to be chapter 3. I feel like chapter 3 was like the peak of storytelling within this, and it was really fascinating in the way that it made arguments in chapter 3, with chapter 3 being the one in Rhymedale that was the one all about like, you know, Salem witch trials thing, essentially, is what chapter 3 was for anyone who doesn't remember and such. I thought that stuff like that was really fascinating, but as a whole, there was never any moments that like were really, you know, mind-blowing or anything like that. Never anything that's like, wow, that is absolutely incredible. I just felt like a lot of things were like really lacking. Like the Knight's Nexus, it's like, what exactly is this? You know, we still never really completely got the answer. Like, it was just kind of a generic big bad is the thing. And you would think that in a game like this that would have potentially a big emphasis on story, then there might be like a villain who's like a very incredible, believable villain who has like, you know, some crazy in-depth reasons for being the way that they are. But instead, yeah, it just showed up and was like, oh, I'm a big bad. And that's nice though, and all the players in the credits. Why'd the P stick around? Oh, I just noticed how there's the 4 crystals on the back of the book. That's cool. Huh. I changed my mind. We're gonna see that in a hot second. I'm gonna, just in case, because that, if it leads into like cutscenes and stuff, that could actually be good for like the next part if I'm counting this up in parts later. Let's actually finish my full review first, and then we'll see what happens when I hit continue. Okay? But yeah, it wasn't even mentioned to the Holograd arc. It was technically mentioned earlier, but it was never important earlier. Like, I think it was mentioned, yeah, it was mentioned in the prologue, as Guzma says, but it was never mentioned with like any importance. Like, I believe Gloria just mentioned like, oh, we're gathering up the crystals so we can stop the Knight's Nexus from coming out. But it never really became important, like, until later on, essentially. You can replace Knight's Nexus with any other RPG villain and nothing changes. Oh, the continue thing isn't there anymore. Did I ruin the chance for, like... Oh, come on! We had a different title screen there to hit continue and see something different happen. A different title screen music. Did I just ruin my chance for that? Oh, come on! Do I have to beat the final boss again because I closed the game? What? No! Oh, fuck! I am genuinely mad at I close it down being like, okay, I changed my mind. We're gonna see that in a hot second, and then... Are you kidding me right now? Like, What the heck? Talking a point off the game for that. Well, now let's see what happens if we actually try during the final boss, I guess. Why? 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 What the heck? Yeah, we're gonna speedrun the final boss now, I guess. Let's see what happens when we actually try. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I absolutely agree with Lancer when it comes to saying that you could replace the Knight's Nexus with literally, like, any generic big bad and literally wouldn't change anything. Like, I felt like when the Knight's Nexus was saying things like never forgive, never forget, there would be like some in-depth kind of crazy reason for the Knight's Nexus being the way that it was, you know? Like, the closest thing that I can imagine comparing this to is Dark Matter from Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, which, like, spoilers for this game for anybody who did kind of ruin the moment, didn't it? Well, I mean, hold on a hot second. It's hard to rant while I'm also... Like, when the Knights Nexus was talking about the whole...
The whole world is counting on us.
The whole freaking...
Adele, you're...
I guess we can skip these two.
Let's finish this.
Well, I mean, like when the Knights Nexus was talking about never forgive, never forget, I thought there would be like some in-depth kind of... Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's something that other games did better necessarily. Oh, I probably shouldn't have done that there. But just from a storytelling perspective, like in general, that the Bravely series could benefit from.
I hope you're looking out for me up there, Lady Emma.
Well, boopity bop. And then we do this.
Gloria.
Is the thing. I never said that the previous games exactly had like good villains either, but something that the Bravely series could benefit from in general is just having, you know, villains who are like it for a believable reason, or at least are humanized in some way. Like, again, spoilers for Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, but the thing in that game that was the main antagonist was also like originally a generic big bad. It was called Dark Matter, and it was supposed to be like the embodiment of all the negative emotions and hate and jealousy and all that stuff in the world. And when you go to destroy Dark Matter, it tells you that, like, if you strike me down, I'm just gonna shatter across the world. People are still gonna keep hating one another, and it's just gonna keep building up my power, and I'll come back stronger than ever before and just try to freaking throw the whole planet into the sun a second time, which is what Dark Matter was trying to do in that. And it was essentially saying, like, you can't defeat me because I am the negative emotion in the world. And was basically asking the main characters, like, are you all right with having that burden on your shoulders of being the ones responsible for me coming back and basically destroying the world later down the line? Are you okay with releasing me onto the world? And the answer from the main character, oh, you're immune, light, that's stupid. And the answer from the partner character, who I would argue is the main character of that game, is like, yeah, it can do that no problem. And Dark Matter and your character are stunned at first, and the partner explains, like, hey, these negative emotions that are in the world, like, we might look down on them and might not like them, but they're still like a part of who we are. We can't just pretend that they're like not a part of the world, and can't just pretend that they don't exist and just, you know, try to, you know, live life as if they're not there at all, you know? So the partner in that game went on to say, like, even though you're all the negative emotions and hate and jealousy and yada yada in the world, you belong here with us. Like, you're part of this world, and you absolutely belong here with us. So we're absolutely going to break you apart and spread you across the world, because you are an important part of the world, even if it is seen as something negative. And as you shatter Dark Matter, as the screen is like fading out and such, you can see very briefly like words from Dark Matter in the center of the screen saying thank you in like the last little bits. And then with that, Dark Matter doesn't come back to try to destroy the world anymore, because the thing that was finally able to defeat Dark Matter was accepting it and, you know, acknowledging that it's a part of the world and that you don't have to necessarily defeat it, you know? It was a very interesting thing to do from a storytelling perspective in that way. And at first I thought with the Knights Nexus here, that especially when it was saying things like never forgive, never forget, that we would have some like in-depth reason for it feeling the way that it did, and it would still be human in some way. Like, in Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, for example, Dark Matter was a generic big bad, but it was designed in such a way, especially with the end like that, that it was still very human. It just wanted to be accepted at the end of the day. It just wanted to have a place in the world. And when Gloria was explaining, like, why people shunned the Knights Nexus, I was hoping that, like, maybe by the end, it could be made to, you know, have a place in the world similar to Dark Matter from Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, instead of just being defeated and just being like, lies, you're lying to me. That's not the thing. I'm just gonna keep being a generic big bad with no human aspect at all. So, like, I feel like this plot could have been so good if it had that human aspect to the antagonist that makes them actually, you know, a character that you still, like, care about in some way. Like, by the end of Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, you do wind up caring about Dark Matter because it shows the human aspect of this generic big bad instead of them just being a generic big bad, and that's it. Goodbye. so, like, this plot had so much potential if they developed Knight's Nexus in such a way. And it was leaning towards that with it saying things like never forgive, never forget. It was leaning towards there potentially being, like, some in-depth kind of crazy reason for it being the way that it is, a very human reason. But no, it was just a freaking pissed-off little crybaby that freaking assumed that people wanted its knowledge. Like, so lame.
Everyone.
You know? Yeah, we're gonna skip the thingamabob. But yeah, let's see here. There's these books that are scattered throughout the world that you could... Why is my mouse, like, stuck on things? Can I skip this? Okay. There's these books that are scattered throughout the world that you'll find and it'll tell you the true reason, but I kind of wish they said it in the story because most people don't go for it in this entirely. Yeah, it should be, like, a key part of the story that you're telling and such. I think it's interesting how it shows, you know, the main job that you used at the end there and such. But yeah, there's a lot of hints in the game too, but it doesn't explain in the story. Yeah, it's not like a key part of the story being told, which makes the story that's being told, like, not as impactful as it could be. But yeah, let's see here. If you really think about the main villain here as Adam/Edna, even they were freaking done, honestly, in a kind of crappy way, in my opinion. Like, the way that I like to compare Adam in my head is to the Kaiser Oblivion from Bravely Second. Like, in Bravely Second, you see this person who does serve to be, like, the main antagonist and this big bad who wants to, like, bring ruin to the world and stuff like that. And he's followed by people who also want to bring ruin to the world and maybe will do that. And he's followed by, like, Jean and, I'm forgetting what his name is right now, but you know what I mean, the healer dude is the thing. But, like, even though it showed, like, that they just wanted to destroy the world, it developed reasons for this. Like, you talk to Jan and, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now. What the heck? And the healer dude, the other characters of the Three Musketeers there, they had their own reasons for hating the Crystal Garden, hating the world, and you see that develop. And when you see Jan talking to you and saying things like, oh, like, how am I supposed to deal with, like, my revenge and the freaking Nikolai Nikolanikov, that was his name, thank you, Lancer. You see this very human aspect to them. You see this, like, with Jan, you see this hatred towards the Crystal Guard for what they did to, like, his family and the evils that they brought on the world. And with Nikolai, you see this hatred in himself for having been a part of, like, such an evil organization and such, with his dark past, and wanting to just, like, bring ruin to the world collectively. And freaking the Kaiser Oblivion, being Yu's older brother, made him have a direct connection to the main characters in that way, in addition to having his own reasons, like what happened to him with the Sword of the Brave, with the way that his family treated him and such, as if he wasn't as important as Yu was and such, always being, like, the second favorite, even though he was, like, the older one and such, the Kaiser Oblivion, that is, and another name that I'm honestly forgetting there. Like, it developed this very human aspect in them, and even though he starts out as, like, this generic big bad, you get to develop this very human aspect in them that makes their motivations believable, humanizes them, and makes you care about these characters, and makes you want to see them, like, see the light, see the error in their ways, and be made to see the same perspective as the characters did. And you get to see that with Jan, Nikolai, and the Kaiser, is the thing. I can't believe I'm forgetting. Denny is his name. And you get to see that with Jan, Nikolai, and Denny. You get to see some redemption with them. Like, when Jan and Nikolai are telling you to just, like, end their lives, like, we're not going to stop in our ways. Like, the only way that you can get rid of us is by killing us. So, like, man up already and kill us, because every time that you let us go, we're just gonna come back and try to stop you again. And eventually, Yu has them understand his own point of view and such, in, honestly, a very motivating speech in Bravely Second, that shows the pain in these characters as well, like with Jan expressing things, like after Yu was expressing to Jan how to see reason and stuff like that in his own ways, you can hear, like, the hurt in his voice as he's like, but what about my revenge and stuff like that. It's a very humanizing moment. And then with the Kaiser Oblivion, after you nurture him back to health and stuff like that, after defeating him and him being brought back to his old home and seeing that there's still people who care about him despite him trying to destroy the world, it really touches him, and you get to see these, like, bonding moments between, you know, Yu and Denny that really helps to humanize him, even though he's the main antagonist for most of the story. And by the end, with him winding up sacrificing himself for the sake of the world that he originally tried to destroy, it brings this redemption arc to the main villain of that game, which is really, really fascinating. And I really enjoy the plot of Bravely Second for that reason and so much more. But the thing about the basically equivalent to the Kaiser of this game, Adam, is he was just a generic big bad, essentially. Like, he had some motivations where he's like, oh, everything would be better under my rule than everybody just squabbling over everything. But we only get to see this motivation of his in one cutscene right before his boss fight. And when it comes to him and the Kaiser are also very similar in they both followed a fairy that was leading them down the wrong path. Like in Bravely Second, we see the Kaiser following Anne to destroy the world. And, you know, by the end, Anne winds up going through with it anyway, even after Denny changes his ways. And you have to fight Anne, and she's a big bad and stuff like that. And now Denny sees like, okay, I don't want to destroy the world anymore. I need to stop you from doing the same. Whereas with Edna and Adam, you never really know why the two are working together. You just know that Adam is helping her. And she's, I guess, helping him or something like that. And then after you defeat Adam, and Edna's just like, oh, I'm gonna fly off and go be evil now. Ha 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 ha. Adam is then like, well, now that you've stopped me, you need to go stop Edna and her nefarious plans. And it's like, what are you talking about? You were just working with her. Like, you didn't, like with Denny making you go stop Anne, he changed his ways. He completely changed his mind about the world. He wanted to save the world instead. And he acted to stop Anne. Whereas with Adam, you defeat him, and then Edna's like, I'm gonna go fly off and be evil. Adam's just like, you must stop her from achieving her nefarious plan. And it's like, well, why didn't you? You were literally just working with her 10 seconds ago. But the moment she flies off and is like, I'm gonna go do my plans on my own, you're like, now we need to stop her? What? Like, what the hell? Like, Adam was just such a missed opportunity of a character who like had potential, but just wound up making no sense at the end of the day. Like, why did he ask us to stop the person who he was clearly just working with 10 seconds ago without any change of heart to his character really at all? Like, it just leaves these kind of holes within characters. Like, the plot in this game in general has holes in the characters of Adam. It has holes in the character of freaking the Knight's Nexus. I was hoping there'd be some other final boss that wasn't the Knight's Nexus, and it was going to be some crazy other thing, but there wasn't. It was just generic big bad Knight's Nexus. There was a lack of character within the main protagonist who you play as. Like, they don't even get a name of their own. Like, there's Seth, I guess, but nobody ever refers to them by name, and they never say anything about the character than words that could just literally be attributed to like any protagonist ever is a thing. Like when they were having him remember at the end, for example, when he forgot who he was in the battle against the Knight's Nexus, they just said like generic lines about him that could be attributed to like literally any protagonist like ever, essentially, so that it can fit like any mold and such. So you miss that character development in the main character like you had with Tiz in Bravely Default and you in Bravely Second, which was a lot of a missed opportunity and such. But yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and catch up on the chat and stuff here that I missed because I ramble about things. But yeah, you agree the main villains weren't great. Feel like Castor and the priest guy were better villains, and chapter 1 and 3 bosses. You mean Castor was actually really fascinating. There were some interesting like characters within like the individual plots on their own within this game and stuff like that. But yeah, and Castor felt like an actual antagonist. He was a bastard, but he had a point in that Savalon's a desert nation and eventually they will run out of resources. Yeah, he actually had a motivation. Unlike Adam, who had like the slight little band-aid of a motivation, no explanation for why he was helping Edna, and then no explanation why he wanted us to stop Edna 10 seconds later. Like, it was so strange. Annie Hall was a great minor antagonist. I can agree with that. I do quite like Annie Hall as a character. Like, she was definitely a great minor antagonist, and her motivation was honestly really cool. And I really like the side quest that also developed like the reason why she viewed Bernard the way that she did. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I heard that it was pretty difficult for most people to become attached to main characters in this game too, compared to the other two games. Yeah, I definitely don't feel like that. There were definitely some fascinating characters here, like Adele and Elvis, I would say, are still great characters and such, but like as characters, but we never actually really see any character development in a whole lot of characters. Like, we see a smidge, we see like some change in but we don't really see a change in convictions throughout the story. We more so just see the characters have a greater emphasis on the convictions they already had just moments before they get chosen by their crystal, essentially. So this game doesn't really seem to have any character development at all, really. Instead, we just see the values that they already had just get reflected more in them in a heat of the moment passion kind of thing that makes them get chosen by the crystal. Like, it's not really developing anything new in their characters, it's just developing it's just emphasizing to a greater extent the feelings that they already had. Like, they never really change who they are and such. But yeah, Bravely Second's villain writing was definitely the best of the 3 games. Bravely Second, with the way that it wrote freaking Denny, Jan, and Nikolai, is some of the most fascinating character writing I've seen in like games in general, honestly. Denny Amin was alright, but Providence just didn't make sense. Yeah, it definitely wasn't a perfect plot. I feel like all 3 Bravely games could benefit from a better like final boss story-wise, for sure. But yeah, and the writing was all over the place in this game, it really was. At least Elvis and Adele are amazing. They are, but they never really develop is a thing, as I was mentioning before. Like, every character in this game, just before they get chosen by their crystal, all of a sudden feels to a greater extent the values they already had, but they never really change or develop and such. Like, it's basically just literally greater emphasis on the values they already had rather than developing new values and such. Like, we don't really see, for example, Gloria. She could have been accepting the fact that maybe she's not the Princess of Musa anymore, and she can feel free to live her life any way that she wants, and shouldn't have to feel obligated to still fulfill her duties as the Princess of Musa, for example. Like, that could have been a very fascinating way for character development within her character. But there wasn't anything really like that, essentially. Like, there were a lot of opportunities for character development, like that example that I came up with in literally like 10 seconds, that just weren't really done, was the thing. Hold on, let me see the other things here. Potential DLC for this game that fully gives the main antagonist motivations. Oh man, I would feel really bad about that, because that's something that should have just been in the base game. Thought there might be something else other than the Knights Nexus, like a robber is coming back or something. Imagine. Elvis and Adele will always be amazing, no matter what. And yeah, overall, this game didn't have anything remarkable overall. You said overall twice, you're bad. There were some really neat things to the plot. Like, the reveal of who Adele was, I thought was really fascinating. And it was really cool in a Bravely game to finally see, like, fairies who aren't just blatantly evil and such. I thought that was a really cool twist. I also liked the whole plot of like chapter 3, for example. I thought was really fascinating. Like, there were a lot of pieces of this plot that were really good and really fascinating, but as a whole, it just doesn't feel like how I thought it would. Like, I came into this expecting like, oh, it's a Bravely Default game, it's gonna have like a freaking absolutely fantastic story, but I just feel like I didn't really get that, you know? Like, I don't think it's a bad game, it's just not what I expected it to be, if that makes sense. Man, not every character has to really change from beginning to end, though. A character be good for what they already are rather than what they become. This is true, but in a Bravely game that, you know, has prided itself in the past on doing such a thing, it feels very out of place to do it here. Like, for example, with Tiz in the first game, you see him, like, coming to terms with the fact that he had already died, and that his life isn't truly his own, and that he has devoted what little time he has left to his friends around him. With Agnes, you see her coming to terms with the fact that maybe she shouldn't be so trusting of everybody, and maybe should, you know, really think about the big picture more so than just her little bubble of a worldview that she had. With Ringabel, you see him coming to terms with like who he really is and what his knowledge that he has really means for the rest of the cast. And with Idia, you initially see her like questioning her family and her people, and, you know, rejecting what they tried to teach her and such about the overall story, but then eventually coming to terms with like the fact that she was wrong about going up against them, and then having to, you know, come to terms with the fact that she had rebelled when she wasn't in the right to rebel. And then within Bravely Second, you see Yu's development from like a generic protagonist that just wants to do the best by everybody, serve in the Three Cavaliers and help bring peace and serve the Crystal Guard and be a good upstanding citizen, to really understanding what it means to be affiliated with the people that he was affiliated with, and what it really means to like act in people's best interest instead of just the generic follow this creed that the people he was working with were doing. I'm gonna replace my controller here really quick. Hello, Diego. Is what I'm going to do. Silly doggy. I will. Wow. This one have battery? That one has battery. Can I plug this one in? Maybe? That's not the right cable. I will plug this one in here like this. Is it charging? Okay, it's charging. So, like, not every character needs development within stories. Definitely, like, I can definitely agree with that. Not every character necessarily needs development in a story, but the Bravely Default series up until this point has had, like, such a big emphasis on that makes you, like, really see these characters change and come to terms with certain things. Like, I would argue the character who changes the most is probably Yu from Bravely Second, who... the way that his character develops is honestly completely fascinating and would be a very fascinating topic to write an essay on or something like that one day. But within this game, we don't really see any of that. So while it's not necessarily a bad thing to not have character development or have them change in some ways, it's not custom for the Bravely format. Also, something else, a little thing. The title screens have always changed in Bravely games, and when I saw that Bravely Default 2 was like that, instead of Bravely Default 2 like that, I thought, like, okay, there's this space under default on either sides of the Roman numerals. They're gonna do something to the title screen like they always do. And they didn't. And, there was that. Yeah, just like how everyone had their expectations too high for the Sinnoh remakes, I mean, the expectations people had for the Sinnoh remakes was just doing the exact same thing of, like, every previous Pokemon remake ever made, of just putting a modern twist on a classic title. So, that's a case where they have established with every single remake previously that this is what they do for remakes, and then they just threw that completely out the window for Diamond and Pearl remakes and took the lazy route. Like, it's not as big of an issue here in something like this, with, like, a plot detail of how the characters change, but, you know, it's certainly something there. But yeah, the part where you feel like Elvis shined the most was a conversation with him and Esmeralda, which was a lot like that throughout the entire game with all the characters. Yeah, I can agree with that. And it's a different development team because they did something quick and easy by giving it to the Pokemon home team, but this stream is not meant to be a criticism of how Pokemon has freaking lost standards and such. Is the thing. And then I guess finally gameplay. There were a lot of things that were fascinating about the gameplay of this game, but honestly, in terms of this game, in the terms of three aspects of story, music, and gameplay, this has my favorite music in the whole Bravely series, and my least favorite story and gameplay in the whole series, honestly. That's how I feel about this. There were some really fascinating things about the gameplay, but a lot of it gets undermined when the game throws like such freaking crazy BS at you that you need to do like such oddly specific stuff to counteract. Like in the Bravely games are all about creating your own custom builds your way, having access to like a pool of jobs and creating your own party and your own vision. Whereas if you do that in the gameplay here, and you're facing an enemy who's completely immune to something or counters one specific thing, then guess the game has just said, oh, you wanted to do your own thing? No, you don't get to do your own thing. Do this one specific thing, or else we're gonna freaking shove this stick up your ass, essentially, is what the gameplay of this game was essentially like. So while this is a series that like prides itself on being able to create your own custom builds, and be able to have your party become like a reflection of your own vision and such, this game almost completely throws that out the window with things like the counter system, where I've literally gotten comments on some of my videos where I've struggled with some bosses of people telling me, like, just learn to strategize better. And I don't know. To strategize, the series pass of being able to create your own custom builds and meet your own vision is an example of strategizing. But if an enemy has like silence counter or something like that, and you put on an item that nullifies silence, that's not strategizing. That's just doing the one thing the game tells you is the direct thing to counter X thing. That's like saying that freaking one of those little children's games where you match the freaking cubes, or not the cubes, but the shapes to the right hole to teach children how like different shapes work and stuff. That's like saying that matching the right shape to the right hole is strategizing. It's not creating your own custom thing and finding your own unique workaround and your own unique solution. It's just doing the one specific thing, the one specific option the game tells you is the right option. And that takes away a lot of the customizability of this game, which is really saddening to see a game that prides itself on being able to create your own custom builds fall into such a state, you know? And that really hindered my gameplay experience because I felt like I couldn't do my own thing. Yeah, it's not really making your own strategy. It's just doing X specific thing that someone does. So I really don't like it when I get YouTube comments on my videos of people telling me like I just need to strategize better by getting X item that directly counts X thing, because that's not really strategizing. Like if somebody tells me, like if I tell somebody I'm struggling with some boss and they tell me, oh, I beat it by putting on X item that directly counters X thing, I'm not gonna tell them, wow, you're such a strategic genius. Man, I wish I could think that well. Man, if only I was as smart as you. Like, that's not what I'm gonna be saying. I'm just gonna be saying like, oh, guess I basically need this item to be able to progress without grinding for 3,000 years, which isn't a good format to have in a game that prides itself on its customizability, you know? But yeah, gonna tell you your Elvis theory you mentioned back in the second or third stream. You theorized Elvis appears in official art in the Black Mage outfit instead of Freelancer, and that he was the Earth hero and he would die like Aloof in Final Fantasy V, so came definitely close to some things there. Music in this game is still better than the first two, but overall the story was lacking. There's a few abilities that prevent counters though, but you have to go through like half of the game before you get access to those. And then you need to, instead of making your own custom builds around whatever you feel like is something that would be really cool, if you want to counter counters, then you need to do builds specifically around counterplaying counters, and then no longer get to have those slots available for creating like your own custom builds and vision that you can be passionate about, I feel like. So the whole system of counters completely shuts down certain things. The whole system where some enemies will just take 0 damage to certain weapon types also completely shuts down several things. Like in Bravely Default and Bravely Second, there were some enemies that would like resist certain elements, but there was basically never anything where an enemy would just take 0 damage. Some rare cases, like I'm sure you probably couldn't use a water attack on the water boss Rusalka for example, but like there's usually, if something can't do damage, it's usually going to be semi-evident in that game. Whereas in this game, you go up against a boss and it's just like 0 damage, immune to swords. It's like, cool, thanks. Isn't that neato? And so it just completely shuts down your builds and such. So like, you could switch weapons to something else mid-battle, but you're not gonna be as good with that weapon anyway, is a thing. Like, there was an argument that happened about halfway through this playthrough of somebody telling me, like, oh, but it tells you what they're weak to, so just specifically use the things that they're weak to. It's like, I'm not going to freaking switch around all my gear for every single battle to work around every single enemy weakness. That's not reasonable. Whereas, like, in the past of Bravely games, as long as you were like a good enough level, had a good enough strategy, and you had like some solid builds and stuff like that, you could beat like whatever was thrown your way essentially if you work it out. Like if you put in the time to really think about it and find your own unique solution to the problem. Whereas this game, because some enemies have counters to certain things, and because some enemies just take 0 damage to certain things, it just tells you, oh, you're trying to find your own way through this? You can't. Do something else. That thing you were trying to do, you're not allowed to do it. Nope. Not happening. Whereas in the series pass, it's like, okay, you're trying this spicy thing. That's intriguing, isn't it? Try to find the solution to this boss by using that current setup that you have. Find your own solution here. Whereas this game is like, you're not using the solution that we clearly intended you to do. Guess you lose, unless you just grinded for 3,000 years like I did. But assuming you didn't grind for 3,000 years, you're not doing the specific setup that we want you to do. Guess you die. Guess you lose. But yeah, we will be continuing here relatively soonish. But yeah, the gameplay from what you've seen is way worse than Bravely Second, which you've said several times is the most fun combat of any regular turn-based RPG you've played, but you want to get the game anyway. Yeah, I feel like gameplay-wise, this is probably my least favorite of the 3 games, I would say. But yeah, the gameplay turned you way off enough to say, this will spend my money elsewhere. But as the game went on, you found it more interesting, and honestly, it was the triple tried S card game that sold you. Oh, the freaking cards around the world and stuff like that. What do you think of the jobs overall, like the moves and abilities and such compared to the other games? I thought they were definitely really spicy. I would change a lot of things about several jobs. Like, I was mentioning it earlier during the stream, for example, where the surpassing power kind of thing. Eventually in this game, you get to such a point that basically anybody you want to be doing damage with is going to need surpassing power. And then, you know, like, just to continue being able to deal damage the way that character would normally be able to do. Like, it doesn't unlock some new spicy ability like all these other slots would do. It just takes a barrier away from a restriction that is otherwise put on you. Like, I know that there was a damage cap in the other games, but it typically wasn't as big of a deal in the other games. And I think that there was, like, other ways to circumvent that. Like, I never found myself getting to 9999 in the other games, really. Whereas in this game, I found it happening consistently, and it's like, oh, I guess I'm hitting this barrier that I need to literally sacrifice one of my skill slots just to get rid of. The thing that I attribute it most closely to is Limit Breaker from Fire Emblem Awakening, where in Fire Emblem Awakening, you have 5 skill slots, and the thing is, Limit Breaker was such a good skill, and it wasn't even like spicy or fun like Astra or Luna or anything like that. It wasn't even spicy or fun, it just increased your stats. And it was so good that if you wanted the best possible builds in Fire Emblem Awakening, you had to run Limit Breaker, and all it did was increase your stat cap. So essentially, if you want the best possible builds in Fire Emblem Awakening, you needed to have 4 skill slots instead of 5, a limit to your customizability. And that's kind of the thing that I found with surpassing power here, is anybody who wants to do damage now has to have freaking 4 skill slots instead of 5, and further limit your customizability just for the express privilege of having this barrier of a damage cap taken away, is the thing. So I feel like surpassing power should just be a thing where it's like, once you get to a certain point in the story, everybody can now exceed that damage cap that was there, is what I feel like. Or just no damage cap in the first place, better yet. Instead of having there be a damage cap, and then being like, oh, you want the privilege of not having to deal with the BS that is this damage cap? Guess you've got 4 skill slots instead of 5 now, screw you, customizability. So, but yeah, let's see here. Surpassing power is broken, especially since it wasn't in the first 2 games. I mean, it was in specific kind of ways. Yeah, it's something so good that there's no reason to do anything else. It's an example of a meaningless choice, something that I've discussed in my current game design class that I'm taking at university, that focuses mostly on tabletop games, but also applies to video games. And this is actually something that we talk about that I'll be talking about in my Fire Emblem Three Houses essay, is there are several types of meaningless choices that you can make in a game experience. So, first and foremost, let me just establish, one of the most important ways to engage your player as a game goes on is through meaningful choices. You make decisions that, like, impact things that you care about. Like, in something like Animal Crossing, it could be something really simple, like, should I put this couch over here in that corner? Should I go give this, like, really cool fish to Blathers? Or should I put it up in my home? Should I give these gifts to these villagers? Like, in something like Animal Crossing, it could be really simple like that. In something like Fire Emblem, it could be something really intense, like, what is, like, the one solution here for me to move my units in such a way that I can, you know, win in this situation? I gotta really think about this here. Or in Bravely Default, it could be like, what kind of combinations do I want to do here with my jobs and my sub-jobs and my abilities to make, like, a party that's truly my own and such. So there are several important things within a game for engaging the player, like a story, like fun gameplay. But one of the most key things is having meaningful decisions, having the player constantly make decisions that they care about, whether it be something really simple like Animal Crossing, or whether it be something like next level crazy like Fire Emblem Three Houses Maddening Classic kind of decisions. Like, these range. But if your decisions are meaningless decisions, then that doesn't help to engage the player at all, really. It's just a meaningless decision. And meaningless decisions could come about for several reasons. A decision may be meaningless because, first and foremost, it's an obvious decision. Like, if you have a choice between a really, really good weapon and a really, really crap weapon, then of course you're going to choose the really, really good one. There's no reason to choose the really bad one. That's an example of an obvious decision. And I feel like obvious decisions are something that Bravely Default 2 suffers from a lot. Like, once I captured enough freaking monsters for creature comforts, there was literally no reason for me to not just have like sub Beastmaster on everybody, just because the stats that it would give you freaking outclassed everything to such an extent. And some of my favorite builds that I had throughout this playthrough, like my Swordmaster Shieldmaster build, which I thought was so cool and so much fun, had like a third of the stats of somebody who wasn't even supposed to be a tank, just because they were benefiting from creature comforts. Like, this game creates things like that. Like, I feel like Beastmaster with creature comforts is the biggest case of that, where it creates something so outlandishly good, whether it be Beastmaster with creature comforts, Freelancer with Late Bloomer, or freaking Surpassing Power as an ability on anybody who you want to do damage with, where there's literally no reason to not make that decision, making it an obvious choice and not there's no reason for you to make the bad choice, because it's an obvious decision instead of a meaningful decision, is the thing. There are several other types of meaningful decisions, or meaningless decisions, sorry, but it's something that we'll get more in depth on my Fire Emblem Three Houses essay. The point is, the meaningless decision that this game suffers from the most is obvious decisions. But yeah, this is video essay right here might actually cut this part up entirely as a separate video to his playthrough of his review of the game, you mean? I mean, I always give my review during like the credits / end of a game. It's just much longer for some games than others. And I probably will create like an actual video essay for this game eventually, because I do have a lot of thoughts on it, as you can see here clearly. But yeah, I still feel like the parts where the spirits of the 4 previous Heroes of Light show up at the true final boss was a really touching moment. Yeah, but it loses a lot of its meaning when you're not actually going up against something that really matters in the story. Like the Knight's Nexus, it only matters as a big bad. It only matters as a force that's gonna be evil. It doesn't matter as the Knight's Nexus, who could have been like a human who lost their way or succumbed to a certain thing. Like, maybe it is, maybe it's in the lore or something like that. But as part of the story, it's not something that matters. It's just a generic big bad that you have to stop from being a generic big bad. So even though there were cool moments like the previous 4 Heroes of Light coming along, it loses its meaning because of the fact that the Knight's Nexus doesn't actually matter as the Knight's Nexus. It only matters as generic big bad that's gonna do big bad things. But yeah, and Final Fantasy V had that problem too. In that game, Freelancer's stats increases you master jobs, so by endgame not using Freelancer is a pitfall unless you're doing a 4-job fiesta. Yeah, that's basically what things were like here for Beastmaster, it very much seemed like. And also when it comes to Beastmaster with creature comforts, if you take the time to just capture monsters, then Beastmaster, we've seen, has the highest stat potential. So in the past of Bravely Default and Bravely Second, there were some very OP things. Like I was mentioning this earlier this stream even. Like in Bravely Default 1, there was literally a build you could do where the enemy could literally never damage you. Could never happen. But you had to do such a specific 4-party setup with jobs and sub-jobs. You had to do like very specific skill setups from other jobs. And if you wanted to create absolutely busted stuff in Bravely Default and Bravely Second, then you had to like really look at the available jobs and abilities and think of like, how could we break things if we combined all these different elements together? And you had to really strategize about this. Whereas in this game, if you want to break this game in half, literally all you do is equip Beastmaster. Like, there's no more of the series past of, if you want to break the game in half, try to look at all the abilities and jobs and try to strategize something really, really crazy and busted. This game, it's just use Beastmaster. You want the strongest possible build? Just use Beastmaster on everybody with creature comforts. So it takes away a lot of the potential of being able to find like your own busted stuff, your own way to like break this game in half. By instead of being able to break the game in half by creating these crazy combinations no one would ever expect, you instead break the game in half by using one job and one ability. And that's all that it takes. Like, it... So there... And that's another case where it's like an obvious decision. Where it's like, why would you do any other job than Beastmaster? Like, if you're trying to make the best possible builds, it's another meaningless decision because it's obvious, because why would you ever do anything other than Beastmaster with potentially, like, the highest stat cap? You know, so... But yeah, it's to a much lesser extent than this game, but an endgame level Final Fantasy V party will be freelancers and mimes exclusively. Wacky. So, you know, that's my hot take on this game. Like, I do think that this was worth the experience and such. I do think that this was worth, like, playing, putting my time into, and, like, beating, and yada yada. This isn't the kind of thing where it's like, oh, I hate it so much, I want a refund, yada yada. I did still generally enjoy my time with this game. I am glad that I took the time to play this game. I'm glad that I got to see it through to the end and got to experience it. But it really was not at all up to what I hoped it would be. And such. The previous game philosophy was if everything is overpowered, nothing is. But this game is LMAO, just use Beastmaster and Freelancer. Yeah, that's basically what it is. I might have to head off soon already, then Guzma. Remember saying Beastmaster was the best class as a joke? Then it turned out to be the best class. Yeah, that, So that's my hot take on this game. Like, I did still enjoy it. I am glad that I put the time into it, saw it through to the end. I did enjoy a lot of parts of this game. There are a lot of little parts of this game that are really good. Like, there are a lot of parts of this game that are just like, wow, that's really cool. I'm so glad that I'm getting to play this game and experience that. But the entire experience as a whole just felt like really underwhelming and like, wait, that's what it was? That's what this game was? And now I don't know how to feel about like the whole thing, I guess. So like, you know, I generally enjoyed this game, but man, does it ever have its issues. And I do genuinely think that it's probably my least favorite out of the 3 Bravely games. Like, I still think that Bravely 2nd is my favorite, Bravely Default my 2nd favorite, and then Bravely Default 2 3rd favorite, in terms of overall experience. In terms of music, this one is absolutely the best, in my opinion. The music of this game is, my goodness, one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a very long time. If this game had a crap soundtrack, I don't think I would have been able to make it all the way through to the end. I don't think I would have been able to have the motivation to make it through to the end of this game if the soundtrack wasn't a freaking absolute masterpiece like it is. But yeah, IMB4 Bravely Default 3 introduces the Beastmaster, who's even stronger and has bees. Imagine. That's what we need here. Anyway, that's basically all my thoughts on this game that come to mind right now. And such. Oh, I guess I could also talk about, like, the art style and stuff. Like, I do feel like the kind of painting kind of art style worked a lot better in this game than the previous games. The chibi art style worked way worse in this game than the previous games. Like, it worked on a 3DS, but here it just looked derpy, and seeing cutscenes like Adam unsheathing his sword and being super menacing with a big frown in his derpy little body, I just couldn't help but laugh every time at the character who was supposed to be the most menacing in the whole story just because he looks so derpy, you know? And the game also clearly has lag issues as well. Like, we saw numerous times. So much lag. Like, I would even have to press the freaking party chat button 2 or 3 times every time to open the freaking party chat. Like, I don't know why this game lagged the way it did. Oh yeah, there was Explode! When it comes to this story, there was also the freaking fact that Sloane dying had basically no meaning at all. Like, that's something else I could talk about briefly. So Sloane, he goes to face off against Adam, who, and we've already established how Adam lacks as a character. And when it seems like Adam's about to get the upper hand and Sloane explodes and such, Adam's just like, well, I'm not gonna bother chasing them, I don't really feel like it. And Sloane didn't really do anything. Like, he literally could have just run away or rejoined the party if Adam was just gonna be like, oh, I don't really feel like chasing them anyway. We've got what we came for. We can move on now. So his death didn't really mean anything then. And it could have meant something if they literally just gave Adam 1 or 2 more lines. You know what you would need to add to Adam to fix Sloane's death is after Sloane explodes, Adam would have a couple lines being like, I must pursue and take out those freaking brats who annoyed me so. But this injury though, after that old man injured me so, there's no way I can pursue in this state. We need to retreat. We got what we came for after all. Like something like that. That's all it would take. And then it would be like, okay, Sloan exploding freaking is the thing that saved the party members and let them get away. Like his death has meaning there. But instead, he explodes. Adam doesn't have a single scratch anywhere on his body. And he's like, I don't really feel like chasing them. Pff, not really up for it right now. So in that way, Sloan's death is meaningless. And it could have had meaning if they literally just had Adam say, I'd pursue, but I can't with these injuries from that explosion. Just literally one line they could have given to Adam would have given Sloan's death meaning. But because they couldn't do that, Sloan's death doesn't have any meaning and was just derpy and resulted in as many laughs as it did after it said Sir Sloan has left the party. Man, this game's plot is freaking screwed up. But yeah, Sloan's death was kind of worthless than anything, especially since he was this powerful hero of light. His death was kind of silly. It really was. I could chase the party down and end the story an hour in, but I choose not to because plot. He literally could have just said I could chase them down and eliminate them right here, but I can't because of these injuries from that old man. From that Sloan guy or whatever the hell. And then Sloan's death would have meaning. But because they couldn't be bothered to include one line from Adam that said something like that, Sloan's death has no meaning. Also, other parts of this plot when it comes to things with Sloan, I guess. In the beginning of the game, after, like, you first meet, like, freaking 20 minutes into meeting Gloria and Sloan. Maybe not 20 minutes, but sometime later. Sloan is like, oh, well, you see, I was I think this was after Seth got recognized as the Wind Crystal Hero of Light. Where Sloan was like, oh, I used to be the previous Wind Crystal Hero of Light. Now you're the Wind Crystal Hero of Light, and so now you have to protect Gloria. Do you swear on your life that you will protect her no matter what? And then Seth is just like, yeah, I swear on my life I'll protect her no matter what. And I'm just sitting there like, my guy, you met her like freaking 10 minutes ago. Like, freaking Seth the ultimate simp. What the heck? Meeting some girl and then 10 minutes after meeting her, pledging his life to protect her? Like, excuse me? Like, what? But yeah, there's that. I feel like this game was really dark, though. This game was, like, joke dark. I don't think that this game... It was dark in Chapter 3. It was definitely a joke in Chapter 3. And if you're talking about that where Twitch might ban, Twitch only goes after people who say that for the people who say it in a derogatory manner to, like, someone else. Like, if someone's in chat and says a certain thing and you call them a simp, then Twitch is gonna be on that. Yeah, simp is technically a banned word on Twitch now, but only if you use it in a derogatory manner, like talking about, like, someone else that's there, I guess. So if somebody came in my chat and I called them a simp, then Twitch wouldn't like that. But I don't think that there's gonna be much issue about calling a fictional character that, most likely. Like, I don't think that that's something that would apply. But yeah, and that's the Dulcinea effect? I don't know what that's referencing. Every RPG hero ever has to fight to the death for a girl he just met. Yeah, that, jeez. But yeah, sure it was all over the place, but there's a lot of deaths in the game, which is kind of surprising compared to the first two games, you mean? I mean, but the deaths that happened here didn't really have a whole lot of meaning a lot of the time. Like with Sloan, we already established why they didn't have any meaning. With Adam, you just learn about his motivations, don't have it established at all, and then right before he dies, he's like, go stop the person I was just working with 10 seconds ago from doing your stuff, and it's like, wait, what? You were just working with her? So his death is meaningless because it doesn't make any sense. And then in Chapter 3, there was a death of somebody that we met like 20 seconds ago. Like, there was that one priest's daughter who died, but like, we just met her like 20 seconds ago was the thing. So we didn't really, that wasn't really that impactful. Yeah, Bernard didn't really have any meaning to his death. As well, there was no like death of Edna. Like, during the first final boss in the first ending of this game, we confront Edna and we take down the Knight's Nexus and stuff like that. But then she's just gone, literally never mentioned again after we defeat her. No, like, grieving of Adele. No No Adele saying, like, I forgive you or anything like that. No impactful emotional moments. She's just gone. And then the moment that you leave to go pursue the second ending, Edna's just like, oh, I'm gonna, like, do stuff with a nice nexus and be evil and stuff. And then you literally never see her again. And she's basically never really mentioned again. Like, she's mentioned in passing of Adele being like, oh, I set her on this journey to stop my sister. But you literally never see her again for the whole rest of the plot. Like, her death could have been really impactful, especially for, like, Adele, and could have really impacted Adele's character. But instead, she just vanishes from the plot the moment that her presence doesn't serve any, like, purpose anymore for the sake of their big bad. Which is such a freaking lazy way of going about the character of Edna, who could have had so much potential, you know? But yeah, Dulcinea effect is a reference to Dawn I don't know what that is, where Dulcinea was Quixote's imaginary princess he has to rescue. Gotcha. I actually really like Bernard mostly because you grew attached to him ever since his first appearance in the demo. I think the reason why Edna isn't ever mentioned again is because the Night's Nexus consumed her, so no one else remembers her. But then you never see, like, Adele mentioning that or grieving for what happened to her sister or anything like that, is the thing. So, like, she's never brought up again. But they didn't completely forget about her. She was mentioned by, like, Adele being like, oh, I set out on this journey to, like, go find my sister and stuff like that. So they clearly hadn't forgotten about her. They clearly still knew that she existed. They just didn't care. And that's, I feel, is a big problem of this game in general, is there aren't enough characters that genuinely care about the things that they should care about. But yeah, that's there's some hot takes on Bravely Default 2 for you, I guess. Imagine if I close the game here and lose the continue thing. Alright, I guess we'll see what happens if we continue. That's right, forget that she did mention it in Big Bell, never mind. Yeah, so they clearly didn't forget about her. They just stopped caring about her from that point onward for whatever reason. Man, this game has several plot holes and several things that are just like, what, why? I think this is a good game, but my goodness, is it ever messed up.
Hear me, you who chose the harder path, though eternal peace awaited you. That path is not yet at an end. I am wind, by whose blessing you did take your place among the heroes of light. And the wind knows no end, no place of rest. This being so, your journey must continue.
Welcome home.
What? Okay, we weren't done with the credits apparently. Also, that was like the worst finale welcome home I've ever heard in my life. Like, it should have been like a heartfelt kind of, I'm so glad to see you after I thought you were gone forever kind of, welcome home kind of thing. And so it was like, welcome home. This music though, well, so we literally missed the second part of the credits by closing this earlier on the continue. I do the final boss's second time because of that. My goodness. Like, I feel like, I guess one more thing I could mention with that, one more bit of my review, is the voice acting. I liked it a lot of the time, but, you know, I looked it up, and it seems like a lot of these characters, and assuming that the freaking behind the voice actors site was updated, it seems like a lot of the voice actors who did like the main characters here, this is like their first role or one of their first roles. Like, I thought it was really interesting how it turns out that Adele is also the same person who played Hayes in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was interesting. So like not first role there, but second role apparently, assuming that behind the voice actors was updated. But a lot of these characters, this was their like a lot for the English cast here. It was a lot of their first like significant roles, and I feel like that gets reflected a lot of the time. Like the voice acting's good a lot of the time. That's potentially a finale thumbnails right there. Finn. Maybe my whole review should be its own separate part, considering how long it's been and have this freaking screen. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the time there was a lack of conviction in certain things that were said. Like, there were a lot of lines where it's like their voice should express how they feel a certain way, yet instead they just express like not really caring and stuff. Like, I feel like the best example of this was during the cutscene before like the second ending. Like, can I load up the previous stream and show some of this stuff as an example, like right before the real ending? Like, hold on, a hot ticker here. Oh yeah, and I guess that's an Octopath Traveler kind of thingamabob. Like, hold on, this right here. Maybe I'll load it up in its own window here for a hot second. Hold on, to illustrate this point. If my computer stops lagging. My computer's being a bit weird and stuff right now. Okay, hold on. Hold on, a hot ticker here. This, if it loads. Come on. Come on, the stream from before.
It would seem we are just
yeah, the nature of things that I did. Pause! Why is my computer lagging? Pause! Firefox is not responding! Piece of crap!
To their own devices.
Ah! Gosh darn it. Okay, where did we take out the thing? Like, hold on. So somewhere around here, if we go ahead and skip forward 10 seconds, I hope. Oh no, that's still during the boss. There are times that the voice acting just didn't feel like it hit what it should. Gosh darn it, that's a little bit too much.
You broke with our ways and left us long ago. You cannot stay. You must not.
How can you?
Like, that was not bad.
Elvis, I place Adele.
And there's also no music here that completely ruins the moment. Just complete silence.
It would be a shame indeed for all that she has.
And it
seen
shows the
to
screen
remain
shaking as if you'd be hearing a rumbling sound, but you don't. Instead, it's just complete silence with the voice acting.
Of course.
Though we raised a glass
Like, that was pretty good as well,
once,
for the, of course. I feel like it was mostly Seth, and then the second most Gloria, that I feel like suffered from the lack of emotion in things. Also, still no music here, so this isn't like intimidating at all, it's just derpy. Because there's no music.
Farewell. And the world of men.
Like, this is literally the moment before this entire race of people sacrifices themselves to hold back some great evil, and this is the freaking moment that encapsulates that, huh?
Now go, Adele. Mac Mel bids you farewell. And the world of men bids you welcome.
There's definitely a lot of moments like that where it does not at all feel the way that it should. Like that it should feel like a heartfelt kind of, oh my goodness, they're literally about to be sacrificing themselves to save the world kind of thing. I should feel sad at this moment as they're saying like their final farewells and should feel that emotion. And so it's just like, Mag Mel bids you farewell, and the world of men bids you welcome. As if you're like, how am I supposed to interpret the freaking... With no music, it's just...
Esmeralda.
I just feel so slow, like nothing's happening here.
Come on.
It doesn't... It doesn't at all feel like it should, and I feel like this happened in a lot of the cutscenes that we had along the way. There were a lot of things that I called out along the way where it's like, wow, is that really how they said it with just such lack of emotion there? My goodness. The silence freaking ruins that cutscene by making it just feel like nothing's happening. It should feel like this is like some big finale of this big finale sacrifice, but instead it just feels like nothing is happening. So, you know, this game has a lot of issues. New Game Plus features been unlocked. This will allow you to start a new playthrough with elements such as jobs and items carried over from a completed game save. Don't forget to save when you finish the game so you can make use of this fun feature. Save your completed game data. If you don't save, you won't be able to start a New Game Plus. Loading this data will take you to the save point on the Isle of Nothingness.